this morning I went onto the course Facebook site and I read something that I thought was very interesting. Somebody posted, and I'm going to quote, "I did something tonight that I've only done once before in my life. I got the courage to stand up and comment at a public meeting. This course has shown me how important it is to stand up for what you believe in, even if you are just one small voice." So as you can imagine, on Facebook there were a lot of accolades congratulating one of our students for standing up at this public meeting. It happened to be a public meeting about citing a coal ash landfill in her county. And then there was also a discussion that we've heard before, and that was about, well, is standing up at a meeting civic ecology or is it not civic ecology? Is it advocacy? Well, it just so happens that also this morning I was reading this book called Urban Environmental Stewardship and Civic Engagement. The subtitle is How Planting Trees Strengthens the Roots of Democracy. And the authors are Dana Fisher, Eric Svensson, and James Connolly. And these authors talk about, they do actually a study of the Million Trees New York City initiative as one of many Million Trees planting initiatives, volunteer planting initiatives around the country and actually around the world. And they talk about the actual tree planting, the stewardship, what we might call civic ecology practices, as one of a constellation of different types of civic actions. And sometimes people engage in the civic ecology practice first, and then they do advocacy. Other times people might be engaged in their church, engaged in their union, or even engaged in advocacy or some kind of environmental civic organization, and then they engage in civic ecology practices. So really what we have is a network of our constellation of practices of which civic ecology plays an important role, as do these other practices. And I wanted to just turn next to how can we keep civic ecology going after the course, as well as how can we provoke or stimulate engagement in these constellation of practices. But before I do that, I know that Samar had a few reflections she wanted to share with you.
So today I will talk a bit about what we've all learned from this MOOC. And for me, what is so surprising is that we've learned about so many different practices, civic ecology practices that are taking place globally, something that you wouldn't find easily from a simple internet search, right? And so we have stories, I'll read out, we have stories from Syria, Japan, Ukraine, Australia, Spain, Philippines, Indonesia, Canada, Bulgaria, Zimbabwe, Puerto Rico, Ireland, Cote d'Ivoire, and many, many states within the US, and this is not an exhaustive list. And so the great thing about the MOOC has been that it has brought all these practices under one umbrella, and it's interesting for me to see the similarities or the differences, the contextual differences that you have within these stories, and they're valuable case studies for us to reflect on even after the MOOC. And so for me personally, I've also started volunteering in a community garden, and it's right next to my house, and I'm planting corn and beans and strawberries and many other herbs and carrots. And while I work in the garden and while I'm interacting with people, I keep reflecting on the civic ecology principles, and as they play out in front of me, if I'm maybe helping someone take the mulch across, or if I'm reminding people not to leave trash or not to steal other people's vegetables. And so these are little components of civic ecology practice that you see play out in your everyday life, and how it's relevant to us. And I've also been talking to my friends about it, and they also say, oh, this is really cool. And so I certainly hope that this course has had a similar impact in your lives. And as Marianne has pointed out, there are many students who've commented on Facebook and thanked Marianne as well for it. And so I really hope that people will continue to be engaged in civic ecology practices and continue to transform communities around them.
Thanks, Samar. And they're also thanking you and your fantastic contributions to the course.
Thank you.
So in terms of continued engagement, I think that will evolve as we go along. I know that Facebook group will continue, and I really am looking forward to be engaged. We are up at 1,256 members already, and there's a lot of sort of just perpetuating itself. And so I really appreciate everybody's participation and future participation. My colleague Justin Smith has asked people if they want to send a 2-minute video to him talking about their practices. He's going to try to make a larger video of a constellation, or I should say a group of civic ecology practices per se. And then one of our students, Danny Rueda Cruz, has started an effort to integrate the Storify stories into a book, and so I'll be talking with Danny about that. Other than that, the Storify stories are there. I should say the course will remain open for self-teaching also, so if you haven't finished it, you can continue to learn from the material and you can engage friends in learning. And then the Storifys, you can keep adding to those, sharing with us your stories, keep reflecting on the principles and how they apply to your lives as Summer is doing, including the ones about governance and resilience and policy that we cover at the end that talk about this larger constellation of activities of which civic ecology is a part, but it's not the only part, and all the different parts, all the different ways that you're engaged in civic activism or civic action around the environment are important. So thank you, and we'll be in touch.